Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach.
And the consistency and the players know the patterns. But of course I'm aware that we need to be flexible sometimes.
You look what Thomas Frank has done over the course of 7 highly successful years, you can understand why Tottenham would be interested.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at stodgy. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 251, and we've got a lot to talk about on the show today. We've got Spurs moving on in the Cup. We've got a bunch of games to talk about on the men's and the women's side. We're going to talk some injuries, and we're also going to have a little conversation about Tottenham Hotspur ownership and what the heck is going on there, because there seems to be a whole lot of smoke, but no proof of a fire as of yet. We will get into it. I've got the Todd Father himself. TC is here. He's at TC_show. What's up, my friend? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Any day that you get together on a Monday evening with your mate and talk Tottenham Hotspur football is a good fucking day. We don't have to talk about a loss, so that's amazing. I'll take draws that feel like a victory for 500, Alex, because God blessed Gal Polina is ingratiating himself and his ridiculously ripped physique to the Tottenham Hotspur faithful. Up one side and down the other of the internet since the result at the weekend, but and we're moving on to Cup. It's not terrible, buddy.
Yeah, it's all positive things. I will say I did celebrate that goal like it was a winning goal.
Same.
Pretty rare for me too to be that pumped about a goal, but that one I actually I will fully cop to it. I kind of hurt myself a little bit celebrating. I pounded my own chest pretty hard, and then woke up the next day and was actually feeling a little bit in my chest area. I'm not ashamed to admit that. And then obviously, the whole Jalpalinia of it all on display, that got me even more excited for those reasons. So I was very, very celebratory about that goal at the weekend. We will certainly come on to all of that. You mentioned it. It is Monday night. We are recording this Monday evening in the States. So we're not really going to talk a lot about Bodo Glimt, which is only a few hours away at this point. That match is coming up in a little over 12 hours from now. So
it's crazy.
We will, we'll talk about that one during the next pod, but let's recap what we've seen since Scott and I last potted last week. We did see the game against Doncaster, of course. We kind of knew that this was going to be what it was, a rotated side. It ends up being a 3-0 victory. It was a good performance, but not an outstanding performance. It was something that left certain players, for me, it left me wanting a little bit more, but I'm curious about your take just on the effort against Doncaster the other night.
I'm going to read you the starting 11 of our rotated side. Okay. Poro, Polina, Danso, Spence. Polina dropping back into center back to show his versatility. Thomas Frank was very complimentary of that. Thought he did a heck of a job playing a center back role against a League One side. Gray, Bentancur, Simmons in the middle. Johnson, Tell, Odegaard. How far we have come from the rotated sides of days gone by that featured the likes of Oliver Skipp and Harry Winks and Dele Alli, an aging Dele Alli in the same midfield, starting midfield in a cup match. Gone are the days of Timo Werner gracing the pitch in Tottenham Hotspur Lily White to start a cup match for us. Gone are the days, Andrew, of Fraser Forster's ginormous figure casting an even larger shadow as he fell in the goal. We are a formidable rotated side, and that's fucking exciting.
I thought it was really good rotation as well. Just the spots on the pitch that needed rotation got it, and I thought that was important. You mentioned Polina playing center back. When the 11 first came out, I certainly thought it was going to be the other way around, with Archie Gray playing center back and João Polina in the midfield. I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised at how smooth it looked. And yes, it's League One opposition. It's all the caveats are in place here, but João Palhinha as a center back is not something I thought I would get to see, and it looked really cool. And obviously, he scored an absolute worldie of a bicycle kick goal, and was just in the right spot at the right time and made an athletic move, and credit to him. But was good at center back too. It wasn't just the scoring touch.
Yeah.
And it also allowed Archie Gray to play in a position that we know Thomas Frank favors him in the midfield, and he looked pretty good as well. That whole midfield I thought looked really strong. Again, caveat the opposition and all of those things, but I thought it was, like you said, like good rotation, a strong side, even though it was a rotated side. And boy, like when you can have Brennan Johnson come in and ball out like he did in this, that's what he's supposed to do in this kind of game, and he did. I love that kind of stuff.
Sure, and that's what you want to see in these early rounds of the Cup, right? You want to see your youngster who doesn't get a lot of Premier League minutes in the midfield getting to play in the midfield, where you ideally project him for this club in the future. And you get the opportunity to get Tell a start at the 9, which we'll come on to that. I'm sure we have to.
Well, let's talk about it right now for a second, because I don't think it's looked great for Tell in the 9 role. I think there's still a lot of growth to be had there. And it's growth that I'm not 100% will occur, but it needs to happen if he wants to stick in the Premier League in that role.
Okay. So I've long said on this podcast that Matthias Tell is a 7, not a 9 in the Premier League. I'm going to walk that back just a little bit. And this for the first time on this pod. And a big part of the reason why is because of how impressive he's been operating in the half spaces, which you need from that 9. His hold-up play has been exceptional when he's been given that opportunity. Even the goal that Palhinha scored at the weekend, which we'll come on to against Wolves, a big part of that came from the interplay with Matthias Tell.
Sure.
Right? There are things that he is doing that are very good for his development on the pitch right now. There are things that he is doing that are going to pay dividends overall. He is a 20-year-old kid who has all the talent in the world and just is really struggling with his scoring confidence right now. And I think that that's what we saw in the Doncaster game specifically. There were 3 gilt edge chances that he absolutely shit the bed on. Yeah. And I don't really know how else to say it other than that. So
yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm not jumping ship or anything. I think there's still a lot of room for growth, and I just think it's going to be something that needs to happen. This is not a sport or an industry that allows you to linger, and I hope they give him the leg room and the room to grow into it, but it's starting to I'm just starting to notice small little things there. I don't want to belabor the point. It was also really cool though to see Luca Williams-Barnett make his debut, his senior debut, get the number 900
that was so
legacy
awesome.
number. Really, really cool. And by the way, I know it was not long that he was on the pitch, but he held his own, and it looked really good.
Yeah, he's another one of those that is a 9 in the academy because he's so dangerous with the ball at his feet. But that guy's a 10. That guy's 100% a 10. So it's just a matter of him coming through and playing in that role. Speaking of number 10s, I want to give a special shout out on this show to a fucking heartbroken James Madison, who's playing some Chris Stapleton, Lucky Penny, and while he's in the gym, Starting Over, I think is the name of the song, while he's in the gym at Hotspur Way, while all his boys are in Norway.
He's going through it a bit, it seems.
He is going through it a bit. And you know what, dude? Shout out to that guy, because you can't ever say that he doesn't want it. You can't ever say he doesn't want it. Yeah. He absolutely wants it. So, and honestly, man, and we're going to come on and talk about Wolves, but I just wanted to say, and we'll talk about why, but that game screamed for James Madison.
Oh yeah.
And he wasn't available to be called upon, and we struggled because of that.
Well, I'll tell you something. I think when it comes to this Wolves game, which we're going to talk about, I think the biggest problem was actually the guy. And I don't want to be too harsh. I'm not trying to paint negative thoughts here, but the lack of creativity against Wolves stood out to me. And that was even more so than the Doncaster game, because I felt like Xavi and even Brennan Johnson provided enough of the creativity in that match. to go around, and obviously Odegaard did a few good things in that match as well. But when you shift it to Wolves, that's exactly what this team needed. They needed someone to pick the locks, and especially when Wolves changed at halftime into the back three, I don't think that Thomas Frank adjusted quickly enough to give Spurs enough time to grow into the game after that adjustment. I just thought that was a really interesting one to watch. What was your overall takeaway from the transitioning us now to the Wolves game?
Well, just one more point before we do. Newcastle in the Cup next. We have to go to St. James's Park.
Let's talk about that for a second. How shitty is that? that doesn't look fun.
We're dog shit away at St. James's Park and have been for years. But who gives a fuck? We're a different team. There's no Daniel Levy around our neck anymore, and I can't look at this team the same way. I just can't. And that Wolves game went a long way to showing me why I can't look at that. We've seen that loss so many fucking times in the last decade, Andrew.
Sure.
And the fact that turned out to be a draw was a massive statement 6 games into the Thomas Frank era.
I'm glad you flipped it around there, because I thought you were going to go negative on me, because I felt like this.
No.
I felt like this kind of performance was always coming, and I think we're going to see these. Look, everybody's going to point to the Bournemouth game. Bournemouth's a way better team than Wolves. Like, this was to me.
Well, yeah, they're like 4th or 3rd at the table or whatever. Like, I think that, and that was right before the game, right before international break. That we haven't fucking won one of those since the Clinton administration or something. Like, I'm over here going, like, there are certain hiccup games throughout the year that you're just going to run into, bar those extremely special seasons. Right? And especially a bottom of the table team that's coming to your house, they're going to sit with 10 guys, 11 guys behind the ball. That's what you're going to look at for the majority of the match. And without those creative sparks from Madison, and shout out to my boy Decky, who seems to be pretty near on track to come back by the beginning of the year, those are the types of creative players you need to step up. On the Xavi Simons piece,
yeah, I wanted to touch.
He got his fucking ass kicked.
Right.
He got his ass kicked. And that's the thing. The first game that he played, and forgive me, Brighton, was it?
Potentially. That sounds about right.
It was the first. Premier League game that he featured in,
I believe so.
And he had a couple of great shots that, and then there was the penalty shout where he flopped a little too much, and there were nuanced pieces. There was a learning experience. It was like, in the Premier League, every keeper can get to that shot. You've got to put it a little higher up in the goal, otherwise they're going to make the stretch and get there. You're going to have to take one additional step with the guy riding you before you go down in the box if you want to sell the penalty. Like, there's just like little things that worked in the Eredivisie or in the Bundesliga that don't work in the Premier League. And so he had that experience against Brighton, and I was like, well, I'm really curious to see how he does coming back into, this matchup against Wolves. And what I saw is a guy that was not prepared for the physicality of a team that had just spent a season, dangling near the championship, right? And that's the thing, is that you're going to have to expect, as a Tottenham fan, that Xavi Simons is going to need a few games to bet into a new league, especially the biggest, fastest, strongest league in the world.
And I don't know if this is a perfect comparison to make here, but I'm going to make it anyway. You can kind of see the difference between Xavi Simons playing on the left and Mohamed Kudus playing on the right. Mohamed Kudus has Premier League experience and has been doing this in this league for a while. Xavi is new to the league. He's going to need some time, like you say, to learn it. And I have every belief. I mean, Xavi Simons is a hell of a talent, and he's only 22 years old. I have every belief that he's going to learn and going to grow into the league. In the same way that I think Matthijs Tel is going through a little bit of the same thing. He's got to learn about the physicality of the league and learn how to how to do certain things that are done a little bit differently in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world for a reason. It's a step up from every other league in the world. It is a step up. So they need to grow into that and figure that out. And look,
well, the other thing,
time and grace for that.
The other thing is they played Javi at a 10 through at Doncaster, and he looked a lot better. He's a lot more fluid. He was free flowing with the ball. And you stick him out on the left wing, and he's very limited, especially against Premier League defenders. Like, he's way more adept at running at, defensive midfielders and center backs than he is at running at a right back.
Right. But the problem there is he's gonna get popped. Like, it's gonna get physical when you go in the middle there.
Right.
And he's got to be able to adapt to that.
Which is fine. I would say which is fine. It's just doing that from a left wing position and doing that from a 10 position where everything kind of rolls through you is entirely different. When you're the 10 and you're getting that many touches, like, the referees are going to see you differently because they know you're going to take dog's abuse in the middle of the park all day. Then they're going to see you on the left-hand side, getting bumped off of a ball and get that weight up, little boy. Like, that's kind of the angle that they're going to give you. It's all the way around. It's different when you're a 10 than when you're a 7. And the referees treat you differently.
Well, and I thought that what I mentioned earlier about Frank not adjusting to things is when the change was made at halftime from Wolves to go from a back 4 to a back 3, I thought that was the time to get a winger like Odegaard on and move Xavi into the middle, because you're going to have more opportunities to get to feed the ball outside against a back 3 and put those crosses in. The way they were trying to do it in the first half, it obviously wasn't working. But if you're going to get that opening, take advantage of it. And they didn't really do that until it was almost too late. And Wolves had, at that point, I mean, they had grown into the game at that point and were sitting there and knowing how to protect their 1-0 lead, obviously, until they weren't.
Yeah.
So that's what made it tough. We mentioned the Paulinho part of it. I mean, kudos and hell yeah. And like a great setup by Odegaard, and you mentioned Tell's involvement in the goal. Like, for them to stick with it and for them to get a goal like that, to secure a point and rescue it. I mean, look, Wolves are a bogey team. Like, there's no way around it.
100%.
Wolves have been
100%.
a bogey team for at least 6 or 7. It's at least since they came back into the Premier League, which I think has been 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah, we are Manchester City's bogey team. It doesn't matter how shit we are. Like, we can always give them a game, and Wolves is the exact same for us. It doesn't matter how shit they are. They can always give us a game, and it's rough. Yeah. So to get out of there with a point at home, as opposed to an embarrassing loss, on a weekend where most everybody else in contention at the top of the table, kind of either held serve or, lost, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. And now we're going into another Champions League week, and, we get to go play on a plastic pitch in Norway. Thank God it's in September instead of February or whatever the hell. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
could be worse, brother. Could be worse.
And it's
Champions League football. Holy shit.
And it's funny. You mentioned, like, look, it's 6 games in, so it's a little too early to just like start looking at the table. But Spurs are sitting in a pretty good spot right now, and I think that despite, look, a disappointing draw is always going to be better than a disappointing defeat, especially when you're at home. So you take the point, you run with it, and I'm certainly not in any kind of a freak out position about the performances and what Spurs have done on the pitch to this point. What I am starting to freak out a little bit about is the injuries.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say we can hang out about the league table, and talk about the league table, and if Spurs stay healthy, there's a decent chance that we'll finish right around this position in the league table. This is about who we are and who we should have been, to be fair, prior to the injuries last year. But you bring up the injury bug because the likelihood of Spurs staying healthy is not very high.
Well, and you brought up, like, how great is it that a rotated League Cup midweek fixture still has all of these great names? Well, the reason is because of the depth in this team, and it's being tested, and it's being tested most, I think, at the striker position at this point, because Dominic Solanke, it was announced today, is elected to have a minor surgery. We haven't seen Dom Solanke since the opening week of the season, or something like that. It was very early on, and at this point, like, there's no real timeline. We don't really. I mean, he's certainly not going to be back before the international break, which is only.
What exactly is a minor ankle surgery.
Right, and that's the other question I have. Like, what does this mean? Does this mean he's out for a couple of weeks? Does it mean he's out for a couple of months? Like, there's no real.
And Thomas Frank was very glib about it too. He was like, "Yes, he had a small procedure, and we're monitoring him to see what comes next."
You know,
and it's like, well, what? Us too, Tommy.
I suffer from this as our American fans may get this reference, but like, I suffer from this as a Baltimore Ravens fan because they're going through the injury crisis right now, and nobody.
Are you talking about Lamar's hamstring?
Well, no, just everything. But the information that comes out of the club is always, just refer to the injury report. And in football, obviously, it's refer to the team news. Like Thomas Frank's just going to say refer to the team news. They're not going to give you a lot of information, which, okay, fair enough. But like that leaves us all shrouded in this mystery. And I've been mysteriously like wondering what the heck's up with Dom Solanke for a while now. I was wondering about Pap Sarr for a while there until he appeared as a sub on Saturday against Wolves, which... good. I like seeing Pap Sarr back on the pitch, but for a while there, he was just mysteriously left out of the team.
Well, they just said he didn't play for a week, so that speaks to he had a knock, and that's what it boiled. We just happened to have 3 matches in that 7-day period,
right?
But like he just didn't play for a week.
But the Dom Solanke thing now becomes interesting because Richarlison has obviously been the guy at striker, and we talked about Matisse Tell in the number 9 and how that's going, but Richarlison also has this injury history. Like I'm starting to feel like striker. The number 9 role feels almost like center back felt like last year to me.
Well, okay, so Richarlison was fucking terrible at the weekend against Wolves. I don't really know how else to say it. It's one of the worst matches that we've seen him play recently. He was truly bad, and I regularly take him behind the woodshed for his awful touch, and I hate his touch so much. It's the least Brazilian thing about him. And I have kind of stayed quiet because he's had a pretty good run of form to start the year. And I'm super stoked. And I've always said, Richarlison is a great vibes player. And he's definitely somebody that you want on your team, not playing against you. But to look at him as someone that could lead the line for the entire season is, foolish, if we're being candid. So... and we have him as a rotational striker. That's what we have him doing. That's why we have him.
But he doesn't have a rotation partner now. That's the problem.
No, and that is the problem. And especially when you got 2, well, I take that back. Maybe you give Dane Scarlett a run. You got to take him to Bodo because he's homegrown, club trained or whatever, right? Well, so he's going to be in the lineup, and also because Tell is not included in the Champions League squad, so it does become interesting. Like, God forbid something does happen to Richarlison, and we know his injury history. Like at that point, you're really looking at piecing it together with like some chewing gum and some toothpicks at that point at the striker position. You're looking at Tell in the league and the League Cup, right. And you're looking at Dane Scarlett in the Champions League.
And I don't say that, I don't make that comparison to be disrespectful to Tell. It's what we just talked about. He doesn't have the Premier League experience yet to lead the line, and we're talking about Richarlison as a rotational option. Like this is a pretty glaring need. I know there were some comments. Earlier in the week from Thomas Frank about a certain former Spurs striker that like maybe that's why they were made, and it's just like we're trying to stir the pot. But I don't know, man. It seems weird.
I'm just saying that it would be the Spursiest things of all Spurs things to do to replace Harry Kane with Harry Kane.
How would that be Spursy exactly? Are you using Spursy in a different way than most people do?
No, our track record of replacing Jermaine Defoe with Jermaine Defoe and replacing Peter Crouch with Peter Crouch and replacing Robbie Keane with Robbie Keane. Like
they also replaced Gareth Bale with the shell of Gareth Bale one time.
Fair. You say a shell of Gareth Bale, and granted, he spent the majority of his time on the golf course that Harry Kane built out back of Hotspur Way, but or the training facility. But I'll tell you what, man, you look at the numbers from that season and you think about the goals that he scored and the plays that he was involved in, and we got our money's worth. We just happened to be playing him under fucking Mourinho, and so it was nauseating football in COVID.
That's why it was the shell.
Anyway,
because he still put up numbers that year too. I don't know why we're talking about
Gareth
Bale. That's my fault. Go on.
Because he's a absolutely. It makes me think of the other guys. 'Cause he's a biracial angel. No, Gareth Bale is someone that I will always wax poetic about. No, and same with Harry Kane. To be fair, like probably the most underrated and disrespected footballer of our lifetime. And it's when it's all said and done, and you look back on the numbers, just the numbers are fucking jaw dropping.
They are nuts.
And there's only two people in the last decade that have scored truly get out of your seat goals on a consistent basis for Tottenham Hotspur, and that's Young Min Son and Harry Kane. Mm-hmm. And there's certain goals of both those players that I replay in my mind constantly. And to have that, and the thing is, dude, is like some people are just good at stuff, right? Like Paulinho falls out of bed and can regain possession, or stop a counter, like you can counterattack. Harry Kane falls out of fucking bed and scores goals. I've literally seen him score a goal falling forward against Kasper Schmeichel.
Well, he could score in any way against Kasper Schmeichel. We know that.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I do want to ask you about this part of it, though. What did you make of Thomas Frank's comments about Harry Kane? Because that is what I found to be the most interesting thing of the last week. Because it kind of was, not that it was unprompted, but like he said a lot more than I thought maybe someone in his position ever would. I'm not 100% sure if it's ever should, but ever would for sure.
I'm going to give you a measured answer on this one. Thomas Frank is a very meticulous man. He speaks 6 languages and knows exactly what he's saying in each one. Especially when speaking, and we've heard him give the I won't speak about players that aren't in my club line before.
Until he does.
But he gets a little bit of a pass on this one because Harry is a club legend. Sure. And he's undeniable. And that link between Harry and Tottenham Hotspur will be there for the rest of both of their existences, to be fair. He's the club's leading all-time scorer. So, someone comes up to you and out of the blue and goes, hey, how would you feel about the best goal scorer in the history of this club coming back and playing for you off the back of scoring 104 goals in 100 games or 100 goals in 104 games or whatever? Mm-hmm. And his comments were basically, yeah, who wouldn't want to have fucking Harry Kane? Like, what are you kidding me? And if that opportunity happens, cool. And that is essentially the gist of what he said. Now, there's a lot of context that's been provided around other people. Agents had conversations with Tottenham Hotspur about, and you hear the stuff come out about, how Spurs have like the first right of refusal on any deal or something along those lines. I don't know the exact verbiage on that. But it's basically like, if Bayern is going to sell Harry Kane and Harry Kane intends on leaving Bayern, he has to let them know by a certain point in time, it's basically the January transfer window of next year, on his intentions of leaving. And then at that point in time, Tottenham have like a 54 million euro buyback clause. And if you're telling me that I can get Harry Kane, granted his advanced age, but I can get Harry Kane for what amounts to 54 million euro, like fucking yeah. And they probably owe us a fair amount of that. So it'll probably be a wash. And it'll, we get Harry for like 20 million. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
It's one of those things that we're going to talk about something a little bit later where I'm just like, I'm interested to see how it all plays out, but I don't really know how to feel about any of it just yet. And we will certainly
that's fair enough.
We'll certainly get into that. I do want to touch on Spurs women this week because they had a really good week actually. A win in the League Cup on penalties against Villa, which is important because you get that Villa's the most important win in that group stage of the League Cup for them. It was a 0-0 draw through the 90, and then they went right to penalties. They did get to play the last.
It was a gritty match.
It was really gritty, and it was. I mean, for a 0-0, there were chances. Like there were 7 total shots on target in this match. It was It was well played kind of by both sides. Villa are not really, they're not really a pushover. Like they're right in that middle of that pack kind of team in the WSL. In fact, I'm pretty sure they drew against Arsenal this weekend in the league. Got a 1-1 against Arsenal. So Villa are no joke. So this was an impressive performance to get the draw in the 90, and then the penalty shootout was awesome. Kopp scored a goal and made 2 saves for Spurs to be able to get the extra point.
It's a big day
In the League Cup. So really strong performance from them. After the game, we found out about some racial abuse that Jess Naz received on the internet.
Yeah.
Which just I don't know why that
never.
Yeah, it
never a place.
Obviously, there's never a place, and it's also weird how it never ceases to amaze that this stuff still happens in the game. In the world, obviously, but specifically in football, it really is an issue. The club obviously made a statement about it, and everybody here stands with Jess Naz. Obviously, Jess Naz is an incredible player, and the club's first homegrown player to make the England squad. Like Jess Naz is almost almost a Spurs women legend in her own right. So
for sure,
just horrible stuff there. Spurs did end up getting the victory against Leicester on the weekend at the King Power Stadium. This was a weird game. Spurs got 2 fairly early goals, including an incredible little chip from Olivia Holt. The other goal coming about 5 or 6 minutes earlier from Tinka Tamberg. And then the second half, like they gave up a goal right before halftime, and it was 2-1. The second half, they just kind of held on, and it was really it was kind of sloppy, and it was one of those performances where you're just like, okay, the result was really good, but we're still starting to see like little signs here and there of Martin Ho's influence, and it looks good, but you still want to see a complete 90 minutes put together.
We're getting there again, super early into the regime. I agree. We want to see more consistency. That chip got you out of your seat, though. Like that was
especially like because at that point it was 2-0 early on, and you're like, oh, could this be a thing? And obviously they didn't score again, but still held on for a victory. So that was really cool. This match also saw the return of Ash Neville coming off the bench, which you love to see. I think Ash Neville is going to be a really important part. Rybrink has been really good in that right back role early in the season. But it would be nice to get some rotation going as well in this lineup, which they were able to do during the League Cup as well. A lot more to be said about this. I would urge folks to go check out N17 Women. They did another podcast. They did a podcast after the League Cup match, but they also did another one after the Leicester match earlier Monday. So they'll be able to give you a much more in-depth analysis of all of that action. I'm really enjoying what Martin Ho's doing so far. Like I said, we talked a lot about Thomas Frank implementing his principles and his adaptability. There's some of that going on the women's side too. They're really playing a more controlled version of playing front foot football than they were last year under Robert Villaham, and I think it's a cool adaptation and a cool kind of growth spurt to see here from the club. And I'm kind of interested to see where they end up shaking out. It's still really, really early in the WSL season. They've only played 4 matches, but so far so good. And I mentioned the Arsenal draw against Villa. Spurs actually happen to be 1 spot ahead of Arsenal right now in the table. So like it's early days, but it's nice. It's been
early days, but never a bad time to be above Arsenal in the table. So I'll take it.
That's completely true. Todd, I wanted to open the floor to you to talk about Spurs ownership this week, because there seems to be a lot of rumors flying left and right. Like every week or so, it seems like there's a new rumor of a takeover, and that somebody wants to buy Spurs. And obviously, with all the change that the club has gone through in the last few months, and Daniel Levy's departure, kind of being the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. Like there were all these little things that were happening throughout the summer, even down to both the managers of the men's and women's teams departing and new managers being brought in this summer. But behind the scenes, a lot of changes as well. And then with Levy's departure and now all of these, I can only call them rumors because that's what they are at this point. But I just don't really know what's going on here. Any light you want to shed and any opinions you have about these, because I know you've got some stuff cooking.
Well, first and foremost, we got the news this week from your favorite journalist, Jack Pickbrook, that Daniel Levy was basically told, no, you can't come and get your shit, and no, you and your wife are no longer welcome on the premises. I don't care that you own 30% of the company that owns this football club. You, sir, are no longer welcome. Good day. And that's some wild shit to hear.
Isn't
for
it?
A guy that was synonymous with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club for 25 years.
I thought so too.
But also, I think that speaks to the character of Daniel Levy, and people know that he'll figure out a way to get back in there and do what Daniel does. And they had to make a clean break. I think from a business decision standpoint, if you're truly trying to turn over a new leaf, and move in a different direction than you've been going for the last 25 years, a clean break is the only way to do that with someone who still retains ownership of the club. Because if you give them an inch, they are invariably going to take the mile that they've been afforded for the last 25 years. And who's going to tell them no? The people that were desperate to tell them yes yesterday? No, that's not going to happen. You got to make that clean break. So I don't think that it's bad form. I don't think that it's poor etiquette. I think that it's a hard truth in business that if you're really trying to move in a different direction, you have to make a clean break from the direction that you were going in the past. So that's one. Second thing that I want to say, I've maintained from the very beginning of all of these changes coming to the fore that the Lewis family could give two shits about Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and they're really excited to make $5 billion, which completely understand. Who wouldn't be excited to make fucking $5 billion? So, that said, you're not going to convince me that in their 60s, all of a sudden the Lewis children have taken quite a liking to the football. You're not going to get that from me. I'm sorry. So, what I am going to say is that saying that Tottenham is not for sale is the way that you maintain all the leverage in the negotiation. So fucking course they're going to say they're not for sale. While this U.S. consortium head up by DJ Brooklyn Eric, which is spelled Ear, I-C-K, it's yep, yep, and he looks just like you'd expect him to, yep, could give a shit. You're going to put $1.2 billion in the coffers of Thomas Frank to go buy the players that he needs to rebuild this squad? Fine. You're going to get us closer to the top four average on wages to revenue spend? Fine. We're at the bottom of the barrel right now. These are the types of things that if you're telling me that DJ Eric, or whatever the fuck his name is going to come in here and make my football club a viable global footballing entity on the pitch, not just on paper. Thanks, Daniel. I'm fucking all for that. How could I not be? I love Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and I want to see us win football matches and trophies. And if DJ Brooklyn Eric is going to spin a wicked set after the match, I'm all fucking for that. But let's see that 1.2 Billy, my guy.
So I totally hear you on your thoughts on the Lewis family and their interest or non-interest in the actual football. To me, none of that really matters. I don't care who owns. I mean, I do care. I'll let me rephrase that because I almost bit my tongue there. I do care who owns the club. I don't really care if the owner of the club cares about the actual football. I want them to have a good performance.
Yeah, you do.
But I don't need them to be fans. That's not a part to me that's that important, to be perfectly honest.
Trust me. Yeah, you do. As a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, Andrew, you want somebody who gives a fuck about how the team plays on the pitch. You could say that the Pirates are a well-run organization in terms of their dollars and cents. And you're right, Bob Nutting makes a shit ton of money off of us every single year. But we haven't won 80 games, more than 5 times in my entire lifetime. So, like, what the fuck are we talking about over here? Anyway.
So for me,
I
get what you're saying. For me, though, it's more about I want the ownership side of it and the business side of it to be run well, and for them to do whatever they need to make their money, to get their value. Like they're billionaires. Why do I care? I don't care about billionaires. I don't think billionaires should really exist all that much. Like, let's be honest. That's where we are in this world. I'm not going to sit here and, extol the virtues of billionaires and think that I care about their feelings. I don't. I could not give two shits less. But my point is, I want them to let the football people be in charge of the football. And I think that's the biggest problem we all had with Daniel Levy was that it was too much of a mixing of the business and the football.
Well, there's a reason for that, though. And what I'm saying is the reason for that is because Daniel Levy took this team from an era of top-flight football where there was one man in charge of everything into the era of a global footballing business. And in a global business, you have multiple people doing multiple jobs because it's too much for one man, even if you're as brilliant as Daniel Levy is with a calculator. Like, I completely understand that. The reason why I'm saying that you want to make sure that your well-run business is also headed by people who are fans of your team is because if they're not, they're going to Daniel Sterling all over it. They could be the fucking Glazers at Manchester United. Like, they could not give a fuck. And so what I'm saying is when you've got a guy like DJ fucking Brooklyn Eric, having this story break and he's tweeting pictures from the dressing room, like saying like, let's go, here's 1.2 billion to get right size this team. This could be the Abramovich level injection of we give a fuck about the football that Tottenham's been crying out for from Enoch for 25 years.
I think the better way I should have stated this is that I don't really care which billionaire owns the club because I don't need that. That's kind of what I mean. I don't need.
Now, do you say that? But what if it's an oil state?
That's a different thing. That's a different thing.
Well, this is what I'm talking about: is pick your fucking billionaire. Neither one of those people have that much money because they give a fuck about the people that work at their companies or give a fuck about their companies. They have that much money because they're good at running businesses.
And I also think that speaks to kind of my stance on all of this is I joked in our group chat earlier in the week, like, I'm kind of going to treat this like I treat the transfer window. Like, let me know when the new billionaire is holding up the shirt because I have no control over it, number one, which we all should learn a lesson. If you don't have control over something, you shouldn't really worry about it that much. I'm trying to take that stance on it, to be perfectly honest. And secondly,
as football fans, we're terrible at that shit.
Well,
P.S.
100% we are. I think as human beings, a lot of the time, we're terrible at that shit. But honestly, like, the whole thing, if anything, if I feel anything about this whole situation, it's probably a little bit of nervousness, only because of what we're talking about. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Like, and that's...
Well, what I know is we've got Vinay Venkatesham at the helm. And he's got Johan Lange underneath him. And we've got Thomas Frank and his staff underneath them. And so from a footballing standpoint, if the new owner comes in and does nothing except for inject cash and then rake in profits, I trust what Vinay's doing to lead us into footballing success.
Right. And Venkatesham has given me that vibe as well. Like, he feels like a man who knows what he's doing. I mean, obviously we saw what he did across town and
in other jobs,
right? In other jobs, and he's done a good job there. And I think that's why everyone was kind of intrigued and excited almost by his appointment earlier this year. And now that he is kind of the figurehead atop of the football side of things. C'est la vie, like let's go, I'm ready to roll with this guy and see what he brings in. But I agree with you, like a bunch of cash would be nice to throw around too. He also knows full and fair well though that like FFP is a thing. Like he said that in the video.
No, but hold on.
A few weeks ago, like
he knows that FFP is a thing, but where we are placed in FFP because of our revenue to wage spend. We can literally spend $500 million and be nowhere near our cap.
Well, let's spend it on wages then, because that's been like
But-
we've talked about it. That's been
So-
the biggest thing.
My issue is this. You're 100% correct, but you have to be able to attract the talent that is going to require the wages in order to like have to pay them those wages. Like you're not just going to pay the people at the team that you have more because you have more money. Like the majority of them, you know, they're probably just going to true up their contracts and maybe affirm some of their, you know, the classic Daniel Levy incentive-based contracts, right? Maybe you kind of you give some firm guarantees on some of that, but like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the amount of times that Tottenham Hotspur has just been crossed off the list of high-profile free agent or transfer targets because they know that we're not going to pay them the salary that they're worth.
Yeah. No, it's a conversation that we've been having for years, and it's gotten us to the place that we are now, which I think is a pretty good place. I mean, just when you look at this football club as a whole, it is obviously in a great place as a club, but you want to see more of the success that we saw last year on the pitch, and hopefully we're at the start of something that's really going to start to kick off. I do think the ownership side of it is interesting, but it's like I said, it's one of those things that I'm just kind of sitting back and watching play out rather than really jumping into it with my feelings and my hearts and my emotions, because I don't have the energy for that right now.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, you don't have to. In the piece that came out on Sky Sports yesterday, to be fair, the club said, no, we're not for sale. That guy, I don't know, he's whatever.
And look,
but
they're going to be not for sale for as long as they are until they are for sale.
Until they are.
Right.
Exactly. But, you know, the important deadline on this is that the U.S. consortium now has until 5 p.m. on October 24th to announce a firm intention to make an offer for the club or not. So within the next month, we should hear whether or not we're going to see guest sets from DJ Brooklyn Eric at White Hart Lane or not.
Fair enough. Maybe we'll have to make a trip out. Who knows?
I'm in.
That is, I think, going to do it for this episode of the Tottenham Depot. Be sure to check out our episodes on our YouTube page. Head to youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. You can check us out there. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. You can follow Todd at TC_Show. You can follow me at Stetka. You can follow the show at Tottenham Depot. We'll be back with you next week at some point. What do we have? Leeds at the weekend? Leeds away for the men?
Yeah.
And
little Joe Roden.
Yeah, and the women don't play until Sunday, and they have. I need to double check this now. I had this written down. See, I'm telling you, man, it's been a stressful week. This has been one of those weeks. The women play. Oh, that's right. They play at home to Brighton on Sunday. So another one of those mid-table games that is going to be a tough one. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week as well. For Todd, I have been your host, Andrew. This has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.